Right, I'm recording it now.
Hi everyone, hope you can hear me. Probably just get started now. Got quite a few on board, pretty close to the number that have responded. So my name is Nigel Mofford. I'm the Building Services Manager, and today we're just going to run over some details around our new portal, which has been in the pipeline for probably at least the last 12 months. We've had obviously some issues with the portal that we've got. At the time it was implemented, it was a project to sort of try and help us with all of the scanning that was being done as a result of sort of taking paper copies and that sort of thing. So it was a way of getting us back into the electronic world, and it served its purpose at the time. And there was some talk about it always moving on and getting a few more features and things that could make things a little smarter for us. In the background, we've had another portal developed by the people that sort of supply the software to us for the management of our building consents, and it's pretty good. And so we're implementing that at the end of this month and changing things over, and it's going to streamline a lot of the process and certainly give far more visibility in that than we've had in the past. So we're really looking forward to it, and we're hoping that everyone else is going to sort of enjoy the benefits it's going to give us. And with that, I can hand you over to Ross McCarthy from Objective, who's going to give us a bit of a rundown on what's to come.
Awesome, thank you, Nigel. Yeah, so as Nigel said, sorry, I'll just jump back into here. I guess the key goal of today is just sort of run you through, give you a bit of an overview of what the Objective Build, which is the product that Western Bay are implementing, is going to provide to the council, but also, wider, what does this look like from an industry perspective, and how do all the pieces fit together. So when I start going through this, you'll start seeing how an application gets made, what happens once it becomes a consent, what information you'll be able to see, and what information you'll be able to provide right throughout that CCC process. So I will give a bit of a demo of a building consent, and what that looks like, and then I'll talk you through the other parts of the Objective Build as well. So I brought this first slide up. I'm only going to have one slide, and then I'll jump straight into the demo, but it's really just to sort of give you a bit of an overview of how Objective Build's bringing all of the key pieces into the process. So so when I talk about who's involved, so we've got homeowners, we've got obviously the construction sector, we've got industry professionals, whether it be architects, designers, and et cetera. We've got external contributors that might contribute into this as well. So you could have all sorts of different people. So you at different stages of the consent as well. Obviously the BCA, who are or the Building Consent Authority, who are granting and issuing the consent, but also we've got central government parts of this as well. So when we start talking about the LBP register and all the information that's coming from across these different areas. So so I guess the point of Objective Build is to try and bring all of these pieces of the puzzle into a central location for applicants, but also allow the BCAs or whoever it is to feed into that process as well. So so you'll see the start of that today with the applicants piece, and you'll start seeing how that potentially is going to pull together. So I'm just going to stop sharing this screen, and I'm going to bring up another. There they go. Share. hopefully you can see that screen. Thumbs up if anyone can see it. Let me know. Nigel, can you see the screen? Is it all good? Cool. Thanks, Lisa, for the thumbs up. So yeah, again, I just want to give you a run through of how the objective build and the things you'll see on day one. So in this case, I'm just going to log out quickly. So this is what you'll see initially. But when you first obviously get the link, or you come into Western Bay of Plenty's website, it'll say, hey, we're using objective build. And the first thing you'll do is you obviously create an account. So it's important at this point in time when you're creating the account to use the account you've been using at Western Bay previously, because we'll be migrating consents over to make sure that, and you'll see those applications, that have previously been done. So I'm not going to go through the sign up process. It's just like any other process. You put an email, first name, last name, put a password and register. That'll send you an email. You'll then go in and obviously confirm that that's your email through the email address, and then you'll be able to log in. So in this case, I'm logging in with an existing account that I've created. So when you first come in, you'll see your dashboard, and if you've had any previous applications that you've done and they're still live or or active, they will show up in here. So if they don't, when you first come in, you don't see your applications, then you need to obviously get in touch about what consent you've actually previously had. So in this case, you've got a dashboard. In the dashboard, you're able to either apply for a new application, an amendment, or a supporting application. So a new application, there's in this particular case, I'll just bring this up so you get a view of it. Wrong one. Sorry. If you put an address in that's not an active council, it won't allow you to obviously push those, create an application. So if you went into Western Bay in the production environment, it won't let you push until that goes live. So, but in the main applications, you've got your building consents, solid fuel burners. If you're doing a PIM only, there's a PIM only form. So it's just a little bit simpler, more simplified than the building consent, and then certificate of acceptance or COA application. So those are the core applications, and these applications will grow over time as we continue to bring new applications. If you apply for an amendment, as an example, you will the application would have had to have gone through the process as a builder consent first. So you won't see any consents in here if you haven't. If it hasn't been granted or issued at the previously. So to apply for an amendment, you have to have an existing consent in the mix. So and then really supporting applications is things like CCCs, certificate of public use. So if it's commercial building and you need a CPU, you can apply for those, and an extension of time. So this is really the 12, 24 months. So you haven't started the building work, or you've started the building work and haven't quite finished. So really the extension of time is just a application to the council to say, hey, something's or we haven't finished, and we want to extend it by a specific time. They'll then respond to you, and et cetera, et cetera. In this case, I'm going to go through a building consent initially, so give you a bit of an idea of what you're going to see when you start applying for a building consent. In this case, I've applied for one here in Western Bay of Plenty, so I've already put an address in, and I've started that process. So just to give you a bit of an idea, I'll go back to the 11, that one there, and if I put that address in. Sorry. So, we'll use this one here as an example. Oh, it's not a Western Bay one. Sorry, I'll just find that address. So when the first thing you do when you put an address in, it searches for which council it belongs to. In this case, it's Western Bay of Plenty. So this is the one I've just done. And as soon as I click on next, it creates a draft application, or as soon as I click on next and then the building consent application, that's going to create a draft application for that particular application, or any one of these as an example. So I'm just going to skip out. I've already created one in this case. And just run you through what to expect in here. So throughout the form, we've broken them into what we call project, property, people and roles, and then if you've got applicate or information you need to upload, and then you've got a review section throughout the process. But all through the process, if you say you select on something, so are there previous consents associated with the project, and you say yes, there's the ability to add additional information. So if a previous application was made, or these outstanding applications, you can add that sort of information in here, and all the way through this, if you're saying yes to any of these, it'll ask you for additional information. So we've tried to default to a pretty standard building consent application. So you just making sure as you go through you are checking obviously what you're putting through the process. So in this case, I'm applying for a 3-bedroom dwelling with an attached 2-bay garage, but I'm also putting an additional standalone 4-bay garage. So, and I'll show you why that's important, or particularly with that description of work and what's coming up, and then just any key information. So, how many additional toilets, and again, this is the Western Bay requirement, how many additional bedrooms, etc., what that looks like. If you are applying for a PIM at the same time, you click yes. You can select. We default to really the key things you'd be asking of from a PIM perspective, but you can also ask for information around the PIM or anything else that you want to obviously know about on that property. So, you'd only select that if you were applying for a PIM at the same time as a building consent. In this case, I'm saying no. And then it's going to ask you for information around the lot DP number. As I sort of spoke at Western Bay last week, eventually the address information will bring this through, but because I've previously applied for an application in this particular address, it'll bring that through as well. But if you haven't applied for one, or there isn't any pre-existing information, you will have to add that lot DP number from the record of title. So. And again, if the application includes a subdivision as an example, has a section 224 been issued, so it's just creating all of the information that you're going to need to provide to council if you need it. If you don't need it, it's not going to show it. So. Again, so like I just said before, I'm applying for 2 parts of this building consent. And so does your project involve building work on a single or multiple structures? So in this case, I've said multiple. The first one, or the main structure, is the dwelling with the attached 2-bay garage. So, you go through, obviously, selecting the information you need to. Where you see these red asterisks, they are required information, and then also where we've got little exclamation marks or question marks, sorry, it gives you a little bit of additional information where you need to provide a little bit more, and in this case I've created the dwelling, which is the main building, and then I've created an additional building, which is the garage. So this gives us both lots of information, all on the same application, and I can keep adding buildings. So say I wanted to build 3 different buildings on that structure, I can again add another building and add that information as well. So, and I can keep adding those through, and this all comes through on the BC application. I then come through to the compliance section. So what am I complying with? So from a building code, so B1, B2, all your normal stuff. So in this case, I've pre-filled it. I've left B1 empty in this case because I just want to show you what's going to happen if obviously information isn't provided at the end of it. But yeah, if you select things like waivers and modifications, like I have here, you need to provide, that additional information. So, I've just put information related to the waiver and modification. Obviously, you'd want to be putting about what is the waiver or modification to B2 durability in this case. So, and again, these you can add additional notes where there's something you want the council to know a little bit more about, which is quite useful, particularly if something's slightly out of the norm, to add that information. And again, you know, whether it be alternate units or waivers, etc., you can add that info as well. So. Does your building involve specified systems? If you said yes for a residential application, you're only going to see cable cars. I don't believe there's too many cable cars based on the conversation I had the other week with Western Bay. But if you do, you know, and you push yes on a residential application, that's what you'll see. If it was a commercial application, you put yes, you have all of the options around SS1 to SS15. So if you change anything or modify or add, etc., you know, you have to obviously add that information. And in this case, I'm just going to put non-applicable. I don't have any specified systems. You get to people and roles. So this is quite a critical piece of the process. So obviously I'm the person that's applying. So me, I'm Justin Butler in this case. And yeah, all of my information's coming through from my profile. I have to add a registered owner, and I'll show you what happens if I don't in a second. I'm just going to leave it empty. And if you know if you've got a separate designer or something, say you're not the designer, you would want to add their information in here as well. So just because you, yeah, you can add other roles. So as an example, I might want to add the electrician in here, or the plumber, or whoever it might be. So, but yeah, you can add any of these roles. You can give them depending on what access you want to give them. So they could be no access. So you're just recording them as part of that application. Read only, which is basically means that I can see what's going on the application, but I can't make any changes to any of the information that's in here. You know, so obviously the owner is going to default to that. And I can give them edit rights so they can actually come in and make changes. And then manage really is I can add users, etc., to this application if I need to. So say you wanted to you know, transition the person at inspections as an example. So you know, I want to make this person the inspections primary contact. It automatically defaults that person to manage, so that when they get to that point in time that they're you know, they've obviously got access to that building consent. They'll get notification to say they've been added, etc., as well. But yeah, it just gives the ability to give different people different roles and different responsibilities, etc. So I've added the electrician in here, and as you can see, it's pending, and he has to accept it before he can come in. Yeah, well, the building, so restricted building work, this will form part of that previous step in the next probably couple of months. So where we've got integration to the LBP register, that will form part of that participant management piece. So we're just yeah, we're moving that piece in at the moment, so you actually won't have to have a separate step, but at the moment you'd add, you know, whether it be the designer in this case, Anthony, and his B license number, and obviously if you know the builder at this stage. If you don't, you obviously wouldn't put it, but if you do, add it in so that they can be added into the process, and yeah, obviously involved in the consent or application. Uploading documents. So again, you've got a bunch of buckets here. So first one is obviously proof of ownership. So what is the ownership information? You've got a little bit of a description about what works. You've got a little bit of information about or a description of what's being provided at this stage. So yeah, architectural plans, architectural specs, structural plans, structural specs, and then other. So other really is, you know, and I've put in here. And again, councils will, yeah, depending on how they want to manage those documents, but most of the time, if you can put them into architectural plans and architectural specs, it makes it a lot easier for them to organise that in their process. But you know, things like you know, if the truss design is an example, or the producer statement, or a vehicle access drawing, etc., you might want to add to the other piece of the bucket. So. And then I get to obviously the final step of review, and it does a check to say, you know, what's actually been provided or not at this stage. So, and as you can sort of see, required participant type missing, a required registered owner. So registered owner is a critical item, so you can't actually pass go until you've added that person. And to do that, I can skip back between review as an example, as I sort of showed then, and people and roles. So I don't have to go back and go through all the steps. I'll just go straight back to people and roles in this case. My internet's going a bit funny. And the key thing here too is if you've got previous people recorded in the process, so you've got you know, so you probably wouldn't have homeowners because they're probably going to be quite specific to an application, but you know, so your builders, etc., you can add them into your contract. So you've got this, so if you add someone new into the process and you said you can click on this button here and it says cannot, well, it says cannot save at the moment because I've already saved this person, but you could click on that and it would save their information to your contact library, which I'll talk about a little bit later, and it means you can use that information ongoing, so you're not having to re-enter it time and time again. So in this case, I'm just going to add the owner, but I also want to make him the invoice payer. What that does is it automatically says, hey, you're nominated as the invoice payer because the person applying is defaulted, and if you change it, it's going to obviously change to the owner. So in this case, I'm going to change it to Grant Hampson, who's the registered owner, and he's also going to be paying the invoices throughout that process. And again, I can jump back to review. I don't have to go through that whole process. And again, it's removed that red item around, which is obviously the owner, etc. But I'm still missing, and I left that B1 empty on purpose. And again, throughout this review process, if you go through, you can see everything. If anything's red, and in this case, this one, I can click on the little edit button here. It'll take me straight back to that section. And in this case, I forgot to add, you know, how I'm actually complying. I've got B1, but I hadn't put the acceptable solution or whether there'd be a waiver or modification, etc. in there. So again, jump back to the review. It's a little bit slow over the Zoom meeting, but it's normally really quick. It's normally just about instant in this process. But now you can sort of see I've got the submit button up the top right-hand corner here. And everything's been completed in the form that I need to complete, and I can now submit that application. So the final step you're going to get is you obviously have to put the name of the person, and this is just a legal requirement of the form regulations, and you put your name, the date that it was submitted, and that's basically saying I'm requesting that you issue a building consent for the building consent we've described in this application. So so that's basically saying I've put all the information in and I accept it, and I'm going to send that through to the council. So that's now gone to the council. The council's going to get a notification to say your application, or there's a new application that's come through the door, and they'll obviously vet that application. So so what I've done, so rather than you sitting here waiting for me to vet and do all those sorts of things, I've actually got one sitting here ready. It was actually for a solid fuel burner, but the application has already been submitted. The council have received that application, and they are vetting the application, or they've vetted it, but they've got some questions around this application. So so what you'll see straight away, particularly when you come into your dashboard, if you don't have any other applications, or you know, you've only got a few applications or consents, they'll be in your main thing. So you can click on straight into it. You can see that there's a little red icon here that says, hey, there's RFIs outstanding. And then along the top here, at the vetting stage, when an RFI gets created, the application gets open for edit. So if you make any, or you can make changes. So if you've missed some information, or the council said, hey, you know, this needed to be provided, that'll be open so you can edit it. But it also, you know, jumps you straight into the RFI process. So in this case, you know, I've had a couple of rounds. The first one was specification for the Metro WERAD wasn't provided. But then also, you know, I hadn't updated the form to include B1 as an example. So I can jump in here, and I've only done this. This may not be what will happen in real life. It could be, but I can jump in here. I can come back to the compliance section. And again, if I want to go quickly to where it is, I'd go to the review, click on that, and it'll jump me straight to that section. Yeah, sorry, I haven't added B1 into this. And yeah, it's acceptable solution. You know, and then you can actually put in here for structural elements or whatever you might put in here. Do the roof changes. Yeah. So this is another thing. Anything I make changes or move around this form, it's saving all the time. So so don't be afraid that if you put something in here and you walk away, it's not going to be saved. So as soon as you add something and something changes or something closes, it's saving that information to that form. So yeah, as soon as you click on next or the browser's closed or whatever, it saves that information to the actual form itself. So so yeah, don't worry about you have to save, etc. It's doing that side of it for you. In this case, I've added this. I'm going to respond to this. Yep, updated the form. Ooh. Obviously, you might want to put a bit more information about what you updated, etc. But you know, in this case, and I can save the response at this stage. What this does is, if you've got multiple questions relating to a round of RFIs, the submit button will be grayed out until you've either provided a response to the question, so you've added some text into here, and or you've uploaded a document. So if they'd ask you for a new set of specifications or whatever, like I did in that last one, you can attach those documents to that. So it's just going to pop out a window to say, you know, please provide us some more information. In this case, I've done the RFI, push submit, and then again, that's submitted back to the council. They'll review that and then I'll either accept it, you know, or ask any further questions, which yeah, at the vetting stage wouldn't be that normal. So, so as I said, I've gone through the vetting stage. I've provided some information back, etc. I'm now going to jump into I've done the responding. I'm going to jump into what different stages of consent you might see throughout the process. So what I've done is I've got 3 different consents, one being at the assessment stage, one being it's been suspended during that assessment stage, and the other one has gone into the inspection stage, and you know, potentially could be just about moving to CCC. So so I'll jump into the first one, which is the assessment. So what you'll see is first stage, and then obviously second stage of assessments gone through to that, and it's now going through the processing stage. So as you can sort of see, this one here, I started on the 10th of March, and it's been processing for 6 days. So it does count the, I guess, the statutory clock around here. And then what happens when it gets suspended, it'll show in red and it'll show how far through the process it is. So in this case, I'm in the assessment, the first one, which is assessment. And if I go back to this next one, it's been suspended. So this one here, it was coming on day 1. It was suspended for the first day, and as you can sort of see, the clock isn't running on this particular one. And it's been suspended for 6 days. So I created it on the same day, but actually no processing started when it got suspended for RFIs. So like normal like RFI process for vetting, similar sort of thing. In this case, I've got 2 RFIs, one's for roading and one's for building. So so again, the council may send this all out on one round, so you get all RFIs. But what this means is, you know, say I've got the roading ones, I can respond to this information separately versus you know, obviously the building ones. So but again, like any of these processes, you have to put a response before you know, you can push the submit button on these. So but yeah, what you see is you know, you have lodgement, assessment and certificates, and it'll always default to you know, where that latest stage is as an example. And again, if you are at the in the overview of this, sorry, jump into that. in the overview, you can actually jump straight to it using obviously the RFIs process as well. So that's a consent that's at the assessment stage. Again, you can respond, etc., how you would, very similar to how the vetting side of it done. And then finally, just the inspection stage and obviously what steps that's gone through. So as an example, it's gone through the lodgement, everything's been completed, the assessment stage, and you'll see, ones that have been through assessment, how long it was in processing, how it was suspended. In this case here, I did it all in one day, so that's probably not a normal scenario, but and then what the issue date was on that consent. Again, that's all triggered by the council system, and that's all coming through from obviously Western Bay in this case. So, and then obviously when the inspection stage starts, you're going to have a whole bunch of inspections that are going to come through. So in this case, I've got a foundation, pre-slab, concrete, right through to final building. So the inspection stage has started. And as you can sort of see from the overview, I've got 1 of 10 have been completed, and I've got a red item, which means I've got a failed item in that inspection stage. So, and to get to that more information, so you can see the foundation one's been completed, you can view all your site notices, etc. through here. So what's actually happened throughout that process. Sorry, just Zoom's playing havoc on my screens popping out. And then, as you can sort of see, this pre-slab plumbing one failed, and because it hasn't passed yet, it's still saying 0 of 1 pass. So so another inspection will pop in along the bottom of this as when that inspection's been completed. So or when it's been signed off by the council. It may go through another inspection, or it might just be that the council at the next inspection sign that off as well. So throughout the I guess the process, you'll see whether it be at the lodgement or assessment or approved, etc., you'll see the documents appearing in here. So in this case, I've got lodgement ones, I've got some approved documents, the architectural plans, architectural specs. You can preview and download the documents from here, and you can pretty much grab anything that relates to and then all your inspection site notices will all turn up here. But then you'll have, once the consent's been issued, you'll have a bunch of required documents. So things like drainage as-built, electrical certificates, etc. So all of those things that you'd be asked for in the BC letter normally, they'll be here available for you to be able to upload. And again, it's a process of clicking on it, uploading those documents, as and when they're ready. So again, probably one of the use cases here is if you've got an engineer that's feeding into the process, or anyone that's got to provide information. If you add them in as a person within the application, they can be providing those documents throughout the process as well. So again, that's up to you guys how you manage that, but it just gives you that ability to be able to do that. So and I won't touch on payments because Western Bay aren't going live with payments initially. And then I will touch on libraries and organisations. So I see there's a bit of there's a couple of questions. I'll jump back onto those very soon. I'll just jump on these last things, and then I'll take a few questions. So again, contacts library is basically anyone that you want to have in your particular in your process. So and this relates to an organization but also individually. So if you're part of an organization, which I'll talk to about in a sec, all of the contacts, etc., that are created within that organization will be available for any application type. So so you can do this one of two ways. So you can either add a new contact in here, or as you're creating it, so you saw in the people were in roles before in the building consent application, there's a save to my contacts, does exactly the same thing, but it just starts building that, that library up. So it's really handy. It makes it a lot quicker if you've got, those people recorded that you use often. So, and then templates. So templates So if you wanted to have, say you're doing a lot of 3-bedroom dwellings, or doing something ongoing, or fire consents, etc., you can create a template that is basically all of the information that relates to that building consent. You can start that application from here. So do you want to, in this case, a 3-bedroom dwelling? I'll start that application. I'll put the address in. I can't remember that address there. Yeah, put the address in, and it starts the process, how it would normally, but with all the information completed. So, and I'll just grab that address. So I'll just jump back in. I'll use the other one I had. Not grass 198B. So again, you have to have obviously address that relates to the council. I click on next, and that's going away. It's pulling all of that information from that template. So when I'll use the property section as an example. So all of that compliance piece is completed, and in this case, I've left B1 unticked. But you wouldn't have to go through and do that every single time. So it is a bit of a time saver if you set these up correctly, because most houses will have a similar compliance path. So you might want to go through and go, okay, well, all of the ones that I have that are the same or similar, I'm going to set up a template for. So, so in this case, I had 2 templates. One is 3-bedroom dwelling, I've called it Bay of Plenty, and then code compliance dwelling. So that's just saying I've done one that template for all standard dwelling compliance section completed only. So everything else still needs completed. So again, you can set these up how you want. They can be edited, they can be created. You can put images to them, etc. However you like. So and then the final item I just want to touch on is the organisations piece. So every application, or every account that's created has the ability to be an organisation. So if you're only one person, you're an organisation of one person, basically. But if you're got a group of people that work across your firm or your organisation, you can invite users here, and it means that they can see everything that that's happening across that whole the whole organisation, etc. And again, you can manage these users yourselves. This isn't something that you have to get someone to do. So you will always be the administrator if you created the account. But yeah, you can obviously invite, deactivate users, and eventually we'll have what we call requests, which means that someone that comes in to go start an account, if they find that your account's already active, they can request to join your account as well. So and again, it's as simple as email address, first name, last name for the invite. And you can also invite organisations. So if for example, I know someone started an account by accident, and if I put their email, helps if I type it right. If I type it right, all it's going to do is going to say who the organisation is and who the administrators of the account is. If I click on invite, it's going to send them a notification to say, are you associated to this organisation, and do you want to merge those accounts? So it just means that the accounts can be merged, and it means that everything's all under one organisation rather than multiple accounts. So I think I've gone through everything. Any questions that have come through? Pip, do you want to, I did see a few. Yeah. There's one here in the meeting chat that says, hi, question. If there are multiple RFIs and building RFIs, for example, do these come through individually, and therefore we have to upload plans individually to each RFI response, or can we upload the plans once? So again, it really comes down to the question on that. So if there's multiple questions about different items, so say they say, oh, actually we want the floor plan on the architectural plans as an example, you can potentially upload just that floor plan to that application if that's what they're asked, or they may ask for a full set of plans to be provided. So it really comes down to the question and the question being asked realistically. Does that make sense, Jamie? Are you there? It was Jamie Lee, C2 Design. Can anyone hear me? Oh yeah, sweet. Cool, got it. Yes, thanks. And then Kelly Connolly, there's one in the Q&A section. Is there going to be a section for other required documents? So if I go back to these documents and that consent, documents. So these required documents these are exposed by the council. So anything that the council say that they require, so within their system, that list is realistically endless, but they may have other in there. I know most councils have an other document, and then they'll be able to specify what that is. So if there's anything specific that you need, I'll talk to the council about that. And maybe as part of that consent process, they'll be able to add, so say in this case, an electrical certificate. So this text underneath here, this is all comes from the council. So these could be for anything realistically. So. Does that answer your question, Kelly? Yeah, so that was an anonymous participant. Can you add minor variations? Yes, again, this is where we are looking at putting a minor variation form in. We don't have it yet, but councils are using this particular section for that. So this is driven any time throughout the, whether it be at the approval or the inspection stage. If the inspector's out on site and they say, oh, we need some information around the jib bracing it as an example, they could add that as a document in here. Again, it could be an other that says minor variation, please provide the jib bracing for elephant board as an example. So that can be managed within this. So yes. Kelly Connolly, can you add multiple documents to one required document field? Yes. I'm hoping you can see these pop-outs when I do these pop-outs, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But again, these documents, they get loaded up again like any document process. So depending on what it is, these providing. I'd be surprised if the gas certificate's more than one doc, or it could be. I'm not sure, but again, you should be able to do that. Yes. Morgan Shishka, are there limitations as to how many documents can be uploaded to each section? So there's a limit on the size. There's not a limit on the numbers. So the size is 250 megabyte per document. So if you've got huge documents, you may have to split it into, so say it's a gig, which that's a fairly significant document. You might have to break that into 4. But I think it's 250 megs the limit on those when you're applying through those buckets. So. Okay, and then Kelsey, on the backs of Jamie's question, what if multiple RFIs required the same plan? It seems easy to publish one set of all. Yeah, so again, it really comes down to the question being asked. If the question says, we want a new set of plans, then I'm picking it'll be a new set of plans. But again, you can with the RFI process. You know, so say you had multiple questions here, you just wanted to upload a set of, I'll go back to 3-bedroom. You know, so say I uploaded a new set of architectural plans to this. I'll just do this as an example. It does do scanning for virus, so it won't let you save it until that virus scan's been done. It just checks the documents, and that's not a limit to the size why it's taking this. It just actually does a full scan. It's normally pretty quick for any small. Yeah, and then you could say full set of plans provided. And then when you any of the other questions that relate to it, if you save that response, that's in the documents, I believe. In the document, so at the assessment stage, so this will all push back to council. So as long as you're referenced that in your RFI response, so in this case, it's not really the right question, but if you had multiple questions relating to that, as long as you're putting a response to it to say relates, please see blah, 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 and the architectural plans provided, they've got a copy of that document. So you don't have to upload it multiple times. So, so yeah, again, it's how you guys manage it and how the council asks the questions and require that to be managed. So, but yeah, we do suggest one set of documents. It makes it a lot easier, particularly if a whole bunch of pages change, and then just reference it in the response. So, does that answer your question, Kelsey? Cool. What else we got? Sorry, Morgan, you said do RFIs. Oh, sorry, you put another one underneath it. Do RFIs only come through electronically in the portal, or can they be downloaded in PDF format, emailed like they currently are to pass on to designers, engineers to rectify? So they do come via the portal. So we're trying to work through the portal. So again, if you've got people that are working externally to you as part of that application, suggestion is that you add them to that application. Again, it's up to you how you manage it, but it will make things easier if they're able to even put information back into RFIs or provide a document to you and then you provide them back up. It really comes down to how you want to manage that. But yeah, the whole point of not sending out emails is to reduce the traffic in regards to documents and that being emailed, because we have so many problems with people not being able to pick up an email because it's over a certain size and all sorts of stuff. So we flick out a notification to say something's happened or something's changed, and then that gives you obviously the opportunity to log in and see what's going on. So it's the preference to obviously cut down that traffic as much as possible. So hopefully that answers your question, Morgan. I'll add some answers to these as well. I think these are will we have to submit documents with a naming convention? Again, then Nigel, do you want to answer that one? It probably sits with you. How do you want it? I mean, we give you the buckets to be able to upload them, but yeah, the preference would be, you obviously call them architectural plans, etc. But Nigel, you there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the documents that you upload at the end of the process of drawing the build is easy. Those ones are automatically by default named in our system with the whatever we've named the document in the portal. As far as the plans and specifications, we haven't got any strict criteria, but obviously the clearest description you can put on it, the most sort of beneficial will be in making sure that things don't get misplaced or not sort of put in the right place. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
And there's another question from Morgan. How much can the registered owners see, e.g. invoices, RFIs, etc.? So the registered owner can see anything and read only across the board. So they see everything, you know, from the application right through to the CCC being issued. So. And yeah, I guess this was quite a topic of discussion, I guess, last week as well at the in-person session last Monday. And yeah, again, you know, that all we're doing is following the Building Act requirements. So obviously the owner's the person responsible for the consent, even though they have requested an agent apply for them on their behalf. It's still obviously the owner's responsibility to, you know, for that consent. So again, you know, happy to take feedback. We haven't had issues to date with the owners seeing that information, and the stats we've sort of got is pretty low that the owners actually go in and check that information. But again, yeah, happy to take feedback on that if the, you know, what issues it's creating, etc. as you guys after you guys go live, so, or after Western Bay go live.
Yeah, just to reiterate that point, I mean, yeah, one of the criteria around that whole portal was to ensure that it was directly in line with all of the regulations and requirements, and obviously everything in the Act references everything back to the owner. Obviously the owner can nominate an agent to work on their behalf, but at the end of the day, it doesn't opt the owner out of the responsibilities that are outlined in the Building Act. So there's a responsibility, obviously, to include the owner. A lot of owners are not interested, and they can quite easily turn off their notifications and opt out of the whole process. No problem at all if that's what they want, the way they want to go. So it'd just be a good idea to have a conversation with the owners as part of your engagement of them, I guess.
Yep. I think that all the questions I have at the moment. Oh, hang on. No, we've got one more. I know. No, still the same. I think that's all our questions, Nigel.
Okay, so hopefully that's given everyone a pretty good overview of what's coming. So it's going to give us so much more clarity around the whole thing for everyone. So everyone can quite easily see what's going on and manage their building consents. And you may have heard that TCC are also going live with the same system approximately a month after us. So that'll mean the entire district all on the same system. So you'll be able to use your single login for both places. And maybe Ross, you could give us a little bit of a projection based on your existing customer base about how far reaching that might end up.
Yeah, so at the moment we've obviously got Waitaki in the south with our first South Island council. We've got Marston South Wairarapa live now. Hutt City Council went live last week, week before last. And yeah, obviously you guys are up next, and then we've got West Coast councils down south, and obviously Tauranga following closely behind there. So we are going to take probably a little bit of a pause after that, but we're just going to see you know, how those implementations are, and then we've got probably about 30 odd councils that have shown interest to probably implement after that. So we've got a fairly busy you know, probably second half of this year and next year implementing, you know, all of those other 30 councils. So we've got about 55 councils that are using one of the systems out of the 66 or BCAs, I should say. So it's going to be pretty widespread by probably the end of next year, I would suggest.
Yeah, so if anyone else has got any other questions, they can contact us, and we can let them know. At the stage, it's all go for the end of the month, and so those of you that have got building consents in place already, will get a notification, and that notification will direct you back in to log into Build, and you will be able to see the details of your consent. We can't actually pull through historic inspection site notices and RFIs and things like that. But anything new, any new site notices, inspection site notices and RFIs and things like that that are generated while we're running the portal will then pop up in those jobs that you already had running. So so yeah, hopefully that should be relatively seamless. As I say, at the moment at all, we haven't really got any visibility on any of the RFIs or site notices in our current portal. So it's definitely going to make a big difference having those in place. So yeah, but so watch the space and keep an eye out for the notifications as they come through after the end of the month, and hopefully it'll work to plan. So the plan is to we have to shut down our software internally on the Friday afternoon. The whole transition will happen over the weekend, so that it doesn't have any impact on working days for anyone. And then by Monday morning, 8 o'clock, everything will be all back up and running, just like nothing happened. But we'll have a flash new portal. That's how it's going to roll, isn't it, Ross?
It certainly is, Nigel. Yeah, we've done it a few times now, so it should be pretty seamless. I mean, the only thing that I sort of suggested before was, you know, if you log in on the Monday and you don't see your consents, there's a little question mark up here at the top, which pops open the help center, and you can obviously log a call by email, web, or phone number if you're not seeing those consents that you feel you should be seeing. So so yeah, it's probably a little bit of a trick for the first few days anyway. But other than that, it should be pretty seamless. But yeah, I think as you sort of said before, Nigel, you know, sort of what you're seeing in here is, you know, I've got Carterton consents and Western Bay consent, and that's what's going to happen as this progresses. And if you're applying across multiple districts, you'll see it all in one place. You're not going to see that across multiple portals. You've got a single log on to see, you know, right across. So that's the beauty about, you know, obviously Tauranga and Western Bay going live. You'll be able to apply and see all of your applications across both of those in one central place. So. Cool.
Okay, that's about all I had. So yeah, so you can get hold of us anytime if you've got any other questions about it, but it should be fairly intuitive, self-explanatory once those notifications come through. So that probably wraps things up for us now, and we'll leave you to it.
Good. Thanks, team. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Nigel.
All right, see you later.